Hey.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Bob. Oh.
So it fired up, did it?
Yeah, just barely.
Just barely.
Well, I backed it out and then it fired right off the bat and it died. I hit it again, the batteries in it. I ran it first gear all the way.
Warm it up a bit, charge it up a bit.
Excellent.
Morning.
Morning, sir.
Figured we'd have a full house this morning.
I know, I'm wondering.
I talked to Jerry the other day. He said he can't come up because we've got stuff going on down in Trinidad.
I need to change the, I don't even do that. The setting.
Well, four of us makes a quorum.
Yeah, yeah.
Turn the volume down.
You think of all these self-professed intelligent computer people, they would make things way simpler.
I know.
You do, it's called a Mac.
Well, to you maybe, but to me, I tried that once. Man,
Well,
look at this.
I've had deal with both
Yeah.
Macs and non-Macs.
Personally, I only use Macs.
Oh, you do? You're a Mac yet?
The best thing about the Mac technology, as long as you get any of your apps or anything like that through their app store, you're not gonna have any viruses on it.
Yep, never had a virus in my life.
Not over it.
Shoot.
I haven't either.
You got the colored one. Well, this is the internal document. I'm keeping track of changes that way.
Yeah. That's right. I have to go.
Yeah, it's the same as this, just. So Chuck, are you a Mac guy too?
I'm an everything type of guy.
Right.
Chuck has it all.
Well, even some that you've never heard of.
You got a Linux machine?
I currently, if I have a Mac, I have a Linux machine,
Well,
yes.
that's, in a way, that's true, isn't it?
They're all based on, all Mac stuff is based, all Apple is based on Unix,
Right.
even their iOS. So,
And oddly enough, a lot of that was written by Microsoft.
no, it was not. Unix has been around before
Oh,
Microsoft.
not Unix. I worked at Bell Labs when they wrote it. It was originally written, there was A language, B, and then C, and it was really to run their new switching system.
Well, they used a lot of it, but,
Oh, missile control systems.
the two, when they delivered the UNIVAC one, everybody thinks it was to the War Department. It was not. It was to the National Weather Service to predict weather. That is what has driven our computer technology, is to derive the weather. And,
Is that developed?
Can we change it?
say what?
Is that sort of developed by Sperry UNIVAC?
Yeah, Sperry UNIVAC, Dr. Sperry and UNIVAC.
They haven't changed it.
UNIVAC one.
And that's where they came up.
He's got a spy.
with the, was it Wozniak or Bill Gates or something down there? signed in for
That's
some
kinda
sort
late,
of
huh?
testing.
Yeah. You're in
It
charge.
would have probably been Woz.
Got two.
Yeah, cause neither Bill Gates nor Steve Jobs were very technical. They were just showmen. And marketeers, all right? Bill Gates seems to be thing. His MS-DOS, he didn't, he bought it from somebody else. And then glorified it.
Last Friday.
Emails and all these companies yet.
Right.
Right.
But, and all of it is, all of it except for the Unix was basically developed through DARPA.
We have to make some
Advanced
decisions.
Research Project Association.
Yeah, I just said you guys are.
And in the sixties, late fifties, early sixties, they were like, all these different groups
That's like.
don't communicate.
The window.
We have to have some way to share information.
Get
So
it
they came up
Oh,
with HTML, hypertext markup language, so that they could have one basically word processing thing. They could write documents and papers and share them between all the.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So remember, I used to make, deliveries to Sperry Unit, like their equipment there all the time.
I worked on one of those back then too,
We had,
and a CDC.
yeah, CDCs were
Permissions.
all units.
Trustee.
All right, gang. It is 9:02 according to the town clock. And I'd like to call the special meeting of the Board of Trustees, Wednesday, February 5th, 2025. I'd like to call it to order. First thing is the Pledge of Allegiance. Randy.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Winkie. Mr. Dombrowski,
Here.
Mr. Wilhelm,
Here,
Mr. Nordike, Mr. Yago,
present.
Mr. Fulton,
Present.
we have a quorum.
Okay. And I guess for the record, I should say, I'm acting as a chairman of this meeting since I am the mayor pro tem. And I think my voice is gonna crap out on me here. COVID. Anyhow, the reason we're here is to consider a request to approve the job description for the new position of town operations coordinator. Oh, by the way, is there anybody on the internet? It doesn't look like.
No, not yet.
Clay should be on soon.
Okay. So that is the only item on the order of business is the review. Hope all of you have read it. I thought what we might do is just go through page by page with some of the changes. Unless you don't think that's necessary, but I thought we ought to review it.
Yeah, I have some change.
Okay, there's, I probably, that might be the best.
What's that?
Because, you know.
Page by page, yeah.
Okay. Right, so the first thing, actually going back a bit, we had several meetings last year about this job description. And we did go around in circles a little bit about who it reports to. So as you can see here, the last version that we're presenting for our consideration, this town operator coordinator does report to the town clerk administrator, and that is what the board had wanted, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. In terms of changes, under qualifications, we did drop the need to, oh, you're here. I guess we can add one more to the, or the Nordike is present. We did drop the qualification requirement that they have a CDL license, but only that they obtain within 90 days, a state of Colorado license if they don't have one, and they should have some working knowledge of what CDL actually means. On this page,
I
that
have
was
a question
really,
for you. It says that you should have a knowledge of the Colorado CDL requirements.
yeah,
That's so that he can tell if the people who need to drive the vehicles
Right.
do pursue it, right? I would think that you might want to add the word, have a thorough knowledge of the Colorado CDL requirements.
Well, that also involves the drug testing and everything else.
And that's kind of basically it, because Neil knows those regulations, and just basically know that, make sure that like Neil's doing his job, because you have direct supervision of the people that have to have them, so.
Work for you? How'd that work? Okay. Yes, sir. So on this page, there's nothing that had been changed in the last edit from the previous meetings.
Another question on, underneath experience,
Mhm.
it talks about the various, computer deals.
Yeah.
Does the town use a specific version of CAD or label, or, because there's a lot of different versions of CAD. You might want to list the one that you guys have licenses for.
We have the ArcGIS. I was not able to find the CAD application on Caleb's computers. I'm not sure.
I guess you're gonna have to look into that in the future then, huh?
I think just general knowledge of CAD would probably work on any CAD.
Well, you can understand some of the, well, is it required to edit CAD drawings or
No.
produce CAD drawings?
It's not,
be able to read them.
just be able to read them from the contractors, the builders.
Okay. Never mind.
Okay.
May sound like a dumb question, but what does the CAD stand for?
Computer aided design.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha, that's what it was.
So
I
construction,
was drawing a blank on what it was.
construction
Sorry.
industry, Randy, that's what they do. That's how they can, when you're
Yeah.
designing a building, you can
Mhm.
tweak it without having to
Yeah.
reprint everything. It's on the computer.
Okay. I have one other thing on page one, educational background, high school graduate, or should we also maybe put, GED?
High school graduate or GED.
Or GED? Okay. Any objection to that? Okay, noted. Okay, I think we can go to the second page.
One more comment about that. Several places throughout the document, it talks about possessing or having communication skills. I think we should boil those down into one place and have a statement that reads like, have a commanding means to express themselves with excellent verbal and written communication skills. That's just a suggestion. I've noticed at least 3 places in here where
Yeah.
we've said that.
Yeah.
And
I think when staff and I talked about it, we recognize that all the job descriptions really need a review. At this time, to get them coordinated, to get them the same format, to consolidate, to make them smaller. But given that we're trying to get this out the door, I would like to think we could push that off and make it part of a more general rewrite. It's even written by different people at different times. Being as long as it is kind of unusual, and so I would propose that be a process we pick up once we've got this job under control. Chuck, is that all right with you?
yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Mark,
Yeah.
Clay's here. Morning, Clay.
Morning, Clay. Can you hear us?
Got you loud and clear, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anything else on page 1? Okay, page 2.
First suggestion.
I'm sorry?
First suggestion on page 2. There's about 12 places in the document where it's referred to as town clerk or town administrator.
Uh-huh.
At the end of that first sentence there, I might add henceforth referred to as town clerk. And then references as town clerk.
Okay.
I'll shut up for a while.
Now, some job descriptions, they would actually say TC for town clerk and make abbreviations, but a lot of people don't like that because.
Right there. I don't like abbreviations.
Okay. All right.
I do have something else on, page 2.
Uh-huh.
The administrator and supervisor of the street parks and inspection department, including organization training and.
Which number are you under, Randy?
Oh, it's right here.
Well, the first bullet?
Yeah, the first bullet, yeah. With the town clerk, the hiring and firing of operational department personnel.
What was your point on this?
Well, my point is, who has the authorization? Are we allowing the operations coordinator to hire and fire people if they wish to? Are we authorizing you two to hire and fire people? I don't quite understand how that. It doesn't, yeah, who's responsible for that portion, hiring or firing people?
Well, this position answers to the town clerk, and they're the town administrator. So we expected that they would coordinate on
Right,
it.
it does say in coordination with the town
Yes.
clerk.
Yeah.
Hiring and firing. That means that the operations manager can't get pissed off and fire Neil unless he's had her permission.
That was the intention.
Right,
Well, I think it's ultimately the board.
Ultimately.
I mean,
yeah, but they're,
I don't feel like I should be firing anyone.
but for right now, the way that this is written, they want the operations guy to be underneath you.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sure that, well, I haven't delved into exactly what your position is, we'll read it, but as a single point of contact for the board of trustees on those issues, unless, well, I shouldn't say you, unless you approve, you're not gonna bring it to the board of trustees, but everything should go through you. So
That's the idea. Clay, you have any comments on that? Guess not.
Sorry, I'll stay on. I'll stay on so you guys can see me. I don't, I think you guys, as long as, I think the key is gonna be consistency and clarity in the hierarchy. So however you guys, propose to do that, you want to refer to that, you want to refer to the names of the officers and employees consistently, and you want it to be clear who reports to who and what their job responsibilities are, so there's no questions.
Okay.
And I think we have that spelled out in this proposed job description. Do you feel that way, Clay?
Yeah, it looks good to me, and just keep in mind, this is if there's frictions or something comes up that you guys didn't foresee, you can always amend it. It's not set in stone.
Right. Yeah. Actually, the other thing on this is back to page 1 at the header, it says hired by the board of trustees. So if there is a difficulty and it ends up coming to the board, that would be in keeping with the job description, yeah?
Right, yeah, you can either put them underneath the town clerk, administrator, hire, fire authority, or keep the job at the board of trustee level. It's your call, but this document keeps it with the BOT.
Okay, Chuck, or Randy, I forget who brought this up. Randy, yes, you did.
That's fine with me.
Okay,
I also had something else too.
Okay.
Under the, I guess basically what we were talking about on that same paragraph, shouldn't we also be putting things in there like he works with the facade grants, remember that inspection thing with the bed and breakfasts?
I think further down, we talk about that, I believe.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
You did? Okay.
Um, We've gone over this so many times.
Yeah,
So we enforce, number one. Enforce all ordinance, policies, regulations in town, including matters related to personnel, zoning, building permits and inspections, so. I was hoping that was broad enough to sort of cover that stuff. No?
oh, if you guys feel that that's fine, then
It is, once you
But
get in.
I just wanted to bring it up in a meeting so that if there was ever question down the road, that yes, we did discuss something.
Well, if you want to add something, that can be done. What would you add?
Well, that's the problem. I don't know. I don't know how to word it there. Maybe Clay can give us a,
Well,
So
we could say including facade grants, et cetera, or something like that.
inspections, lodging inspections.
Well, let's say building permits and inspections.
Yeah, but I've considered that for building permits. The inspections that I'm talking about is for the bed and breakfast and all those things. In fact, it was just myself and Mark that were working on the committee. We had that meeting about 5 months ago. We had it with Clay. And, was working on that, so.
Well, how about this? The second bullet, all maintenance and capital improvement activity, oops, where am I?
Yeah.
First of all.
Number one. So subordinate personnel, zoning, building permits and inspections to include building, lodging and facade grants.
Yeah, that's fine.
Anybody?
You need to have facade in there, why don't you just have grants?
Well, because the facade grant's actually different. The facade grant is something that the
But you see,
town,
grants, that covers everything.
well.
Yeah.
But the
How about-
grants- the facade grant is something that the town, that the town is doing. Whether it's, people may be thinking of the grants at state and federal.
Well, I guess I thought the point you were making is,
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
this is page 2, number 1.
Okay,
So maybe just building and lodging.
instead of saying building permits, and then it says and inspection, I would put and all inspections.
Got it.
Right, there you go.
How about
Because
that?
the and separates it from the building anyway.
It really, folks, is once we have this person in place, whenever that may happen, then it's up to the team to say, here, okay, here's what we need to get done and all that. So, we can put down everything,
Yeah.
if possible, and this thing will be, whatever long. And so I think it's just, on the job training, if you will, or exposure. And, if someone says, well, that wasn't in this job description that I signed on for, because you didn't say anything about facade grants.
You probably have the right person if they say that.
Exactly. Well, it's probably the person we didn't want to have in the first place.
Actually, the facade grants are basically handled by
Yeah,
you two.
I take the
Well, come
application.
to think of it, because Caleb, I don't think hardly did anything on that.
Well, we
Other
dropped
than
it
when
already out.
You
I'm
would-
sorry.
We dropped it from the text.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You got it. No problem.
Okay. Anything else on page 2?
Yeah.
Oh,
1A,
one
it
A.
says deal with personnel issues both professionally and personal in a thoughtful and legal manner. How's he supposed to know what is legal manner? Does he have any requirements to understand legal?
Well, I guess we have an attorney that can help
Well,
us. should that come up.
we're making the specifications legal. I think are we trying to say that we want him to be able to be like tactful and personable with the public?
Yeah.
Or,
Well, we certainly have text to that further on in the later pages. I think, this is text that has been in his job description from day one, as far as I know. We didn't add that. So, as I said earlier, I think we're gonna have to review these job descriptions more comprehensively in the future. So you okay with that?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's a,
okay.
And I think part of that, gentleman, and everyone is referring to the necessity for that position to understand legal specifications for inspections and things like that.
So you can't go out and threaten the public or any staff or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta work, you have to understand what is allowed, what isn't, what permits allow, what they don't, what the building codes that we've adopted and all that. You have to be somewhat familiar and obviously coordinate with staff, including myself, before writing notices and ticketing people under the code enforcement portion of that.
An important aspect,
Yes.
for sure. What else on page 2? Anything?
No, I'll wait. Well, no, I mean, I'm a document weenie as well, so when we get ready to flush this out again later,
Yeah,
I'll be part of that.
There you go.
Cause formatting is
okay,
atrocious.
all right. Off to page 3 then. There's some changes that were made, in this last edit. For example, it says utilize procurement policies instead of develop. When needed, refine procurement documents, etc. That's a slight change in the English there. That was under number 4. Number 7 had attend planning and zoning meetings because he didn't really say one way or the other. In terms of number 10, minor complaints, we said respond to, document, and resolve minor complaints because it wasn't clear where the resolution and the keeping track of these things was to take place. 12, C, field investigate claims against the town operations activities rather than everything associated with the town. And then manage claims process as necessary and report results to the town clerk, who is responsible to keep track of all that stuff. And then number F is new, I believe. In emergency situations, act as a town incident controller and obtain necessary training in coordination with the town clerk, review and investigate accidents and make necessary legal reports. Because there's a lot to that and it wasn't mentioned anyplace, so. How's all that sound? Mr. Yago?
Well, you've mentioned the town incident controller, but you don't have it defined anywhere else.
Say again?
You've mentioned the town incident controller.
Yeah.
Is there anything specific that they need to have in their repertoire to handle that? Cause it's not defined or listed anywhere else in the document.
Well, I'm from the railroad world, and I guess I was used to what that meant, but it really means if there's an incident, as far as our staff is concerned, there's one person that coordinates, communicates, keeps the peace, well, coordinates with the law and the emergency crews. So, Neil, you got anything to say on that?
That's part of that risk management, right?
Yeah,
So if they are knowledgeable on risk management, it lists a bunch of things that they're,
That's true, you are
Need to
correct.
know
They are educated in risk.
Or they're responsible if
My mistake.
Yeah, okay. We discussed that quite a bit, that's for sure.
so we leave it the way it is, or is there something we need to add?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Down on page 3 then, right?
Well, I have one suggestion.
Oh,
Back on the very first sentence, it says federal regulations are a fit for small town applications.
and where are you?
On the very top of the page, very first sentence. It says right draft ordinances, regulations, grant applications, blah, 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 with state and federal regulations are a fit for small town application.
What's that mean?
How about instead of fit, put it applicable?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good word.
Hate to say it, but I'm missing.
Right here, right, right,
Oh,
Very top.
very top, second line.
oh, I guess,
Page
okay,
3.
hold on a second.
Page 3.
Yeah, my page, okay. I was looking at an old document that had the changes on it. I'm a little out of sync here.
Page 3.
Yeah, okay.
The very top, right, right, draft ordinances.
All right. What was your,
Just change the word fit to applicable. Take.
oh, and are applicable
Take
for,
a fit and replace that with the word applicable.
yeah.
Good suggestion. I like that.
And then on 4B, right after the word concise is a must, I would replace that with required.
Where are you again, Chuck?
4B,
Oh, B, okay.
4B, and right there it says clear and concise is a must. I would put, instead of a must, I put is required.
Okay.
Okay.
A lot of this again is old text that we. All right,
All right, that's enough.
Fit. Fit. Like
Got
that.
more, but that's enough.
anything else on page 3? Going, Costco. Page 4. All right, I think what was added there was under Highway User Tax Fund, number C, report all inventories and reports to town clerk. Under availability, it was added large events, well, it was old text, large events in town parks, we added major construction projects. Since like paving roads and all that. And item C was added, coordinate with the town clerk to maintain a list of contractors capable of supporting operational personnel. Neil, if I remember, the idea is when you guys are booked solid, you need to have a list that's been judged competent and available to assist, right?
It's also part of that risk management.
Yeah.
They need that list.
Um,
On 15A, I would, where it says maintain an on-call list, I would put all in before operations. And then I would, you could either, I would have deleted including self.
That was a critical part there.
Was it?
Yeah, in other words, we had issues where self wasn't there. Didn't want to participate in being on call.
In my logic, if you put all in there, that includes self. But then again, if there has been an issue in the
Yeah.
past,
Yeah.
well, then I would go ahead and leave it including self. in
Yeah,
there.
that was definite.
I don't quite understand, the fact, the word you want, give.
Maintain an on-call list of all operations staff. Just add the
Okay.
word all.
Okay, I had it,
Okay,
There's good.
anything else on page 4?
Down below where it says two-way communications, I would think you'd put the word "the" in front of the town operations coordinator.
Okay. What else? Anything on page 4? Done?
Yeah.
All right, you keep talking all the time here.
I'm just listening.
Okay. All right, we're done on page 4 then. Page 5. Nothing changed, in the last go around. Oh, other than the lift and move was reduced to 50 pounds, not 100.
I've got under work environment, you're talking about the noise and everything else. I think we ought to put in there something that town needs to make sure that we supply the proper equipment for
Safety equipment.
noise headphones,
Oh,
breathing apparatuses, if we have to have something like that.
Yeah, I had that same.
That's under risk management and operations policies.
Ear protection,
Yeah, PPE is under.
just ear protection, which would
All PPE, it doesn't matter if it's noise, if it's dust, if it's dirt, if it's eyes, if it's.
ear and eye.
PPE is under risk
Ear and
assessment,
eye.
boots.
That's-
Feet, hands,
so that's in our handbook and all that, right?
under risk, yeah.
Okay? Just wanted it there somewhere.
Well, that's one of the reasons we decided eventually we need to look at all these as whole and including the handbook with it, because there's an awful lot of detail in here that in some organizations is more in SOPs, standard operating procedure type documents, not in the job description.
Okay, technical demands, the third paragraph, your last sentence, the job is primarily a desk job. That's dangerous. You get somebody in here that never walks out of this building. Never go out and see what's going on.
Yeah. And that was there in the previous one, and
Was it?
I
Yeah.
wondered about that too.
Remove it.
Just remove it,
And
yeah.
I would just remove that.
All right.
Right, sit at your desk and lift 50 pounds.
50 pounds of job.
The job.
Okay. Anything else on page 5? Well, I've got 9 edits, which I can make today here and deliver to staff. Or staff and I can do it. You guys have the Word file too, right?
I've got so many different versions,
got so many?
just send me the final one.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I mean, I've always tried to put, you notice on the bottom, I got the file name, and I'll do it. In coordination with the staff. How's that? So we should have then, final document, ready to go.
Right, and then I can post it. I mean, you guys have to make a motion first.
Right.
Well, this
right
is-
now To,
This is, Clay, I'm glad you're here. I had some thoughts on this. We have had some confusion about how these jobs are created and who they answer to. And in the past, there was a lot made out of some of the laws and do they pertain to what we're doing or not? And if you'll just hold back a minute. I forgot to get things out here. I think in the past, we were confused sometimes about the Colorado revised statutes and how they referred to the town. And much was made out of the statute, which I don't quite have in front of me right now, Clay, but it's the one about appointing officers. And and my thought is that this job, the town coordinator, because it answers to an officer, statutory officer, the town clerk, and because its focus is primarily on field operations, that this job is not an officer, it's an employee job description. Any thoughts on that, Clay, from your end?
Yeah, I mean, unless you guys specifically make it an officer position. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
unless you make it, unless you specifically make it an officer position and you want it to be an appointed officer position, then you don't have to, you can make it an employment position. There might be some gray murky area there because you're maintaining authority over the individual as the BOT, which kind of puts it in more into administratively, that's how you treat officers. So, after you settle on a job description, the cleanest thing would be to turn over the authority of, daily supervision, hiring, firing, et cetera, to town clerk administrator. But if you wanted to keep a special employment position that the BOT oversees, you can certainly do that, but you are kind of, getting closer to that. What looks like an officer administered position. I don't think you technically make it an officer position just by having BOT authority, but you are gonna, bring it closer to that, to someone being able to question that.
Well, I guess the only way in which the BOT is attached to this job description is the fact that it says, at the moment, hired by the Board of Trustees, right? Everything else points to the town administrator clerk.
Yes, I agree with that. This is, to me, looks like an employment position, which does not require you publish or codify the job description by ordinance. I think you can adopt it, and put it into, your employment manual, employee manual, and do it by policy.
That was certainly, I thought the desire of the board was to keep it at that level, yeah. Administrator, you see it that way too?
Yeah, I think that's what we had talked about.
Yeah.
Clay, what's to define the officer?
Well, officers are defined by statute. The only default officers are clerk, treasurer, and town attorney. The judge is separate, although you treat them administratively like an officer. They can only be fired for cause.
Right.
And then any other officer is those that are appointed by the BOT. And if they're not described in statute, you have to describe that position as an officer, and then by ordinance describe the job description.
Okay. And for what reason would you make anyone an officer? Is there advantages or disadvantages or what?
There's both. I mean, it depends on how you want to run it. Typically, officers can only be hired and fired by the BOT. And so what you're doing is you're removing them from the employment hierarchy of the town administrator. So if you want more oversight over a special position that the BOT is looking at, it's a good reason to make someone an officer. Officers typically are only allowed to be removed for certain reasons or for cause by the BOT. So they, not only is there typically not supervision authority, but there's no hiring, firing authority over officers by other members of staff. Clerks often answer to a town administrator, but a town administrator cannot hire or fire a clerk. So, there's different varying interrelationships between staff and officers. I think that's kind of that's like the macro level view of it. Obviously, if an officer is appointed and they're not one of the 3 default officers within the statute, although town administrator is typically considered a officer as well, and they have descriptions within the statute. So if they're not one of those defaults, then the other thing is you codify their job description. I'm trying to think of any other pros, cons. It really just has to do with how you want to manage that position and how much authority you want the BOT to have over that position.
Right, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, the law says 31-4-304. Board of Trustees shall appoint a clerk, treasurer, and a town attorney, or shall provide by ordinance for the election of such officers, and may appoint such other officers, including a town administrator, as it deems necessary for the good governance of the corporation. And then it says shall provide by ordinance their duties. So I guess the only thing on the present job description that would tie to the Board of Trustees, it says it's hired by the Board of Trustees, right? Pretty much everything else in here.
On the current, that's what we're looking at, is it looks like the BOT is hiring and describing, putting in a job description, and then and then delegating their supervision authority to the town administrator.
And that's okay?
I think it's fine. I don't see any, there's nothing in statute that says you can't. I was just making a point that the
The gray area?
super clean way to do it would be to separate the position altogether from the board and just allow the authority to go to the town clerk administrator. But what you're doing is not wrong. It's just, you know, you're kind of tiptoeing into some, it just gives somebody a reason to look a little deeper into, well, is this person an officer or is this person an employee? But I think if you treat them like an employee, give supervision to the town clerk administrator, and just maintain, you know, hiring, firing authority, or even just the hiring authority over that position, there's nothing in the statute that says you can't do that.
Okay.
So
And
Aaron,
I would say, you know, Colorado law favors local governance and decisions made by local governance that isn't in contrast to statute. So because there's no contrast to statute, I think your determinations would be, you know, and looked at in the light most favorable to the government. And this is, you know, clearly reasonable and a matter of, you know, a local issue that you guys have authority over.
well, we are in an atmosphere at the moment where we're being scrutinized right and left. Aaron, what do you think about if we were to consider having the hiring done by you?
I mean, it seems odd to me that
Yeah.
it wouldn't be the board hiring and firing. That's.
Yeah.
You know. I mean, when I was hired, it was Paul and George and Kathy who interviewed me. And I think ultimately you guys decided to hire me. It wasn't just Kathy's decision.
Yeah, I wasn't here then, so I don't know how that went. Well, Clay, if I get you right, you're saying it's okay legally, but
Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't want, I'm not trying to speak out of both sides of my mouth. It is unequivocally legal to do it the way you're doing. I'm just being, in an abundance of caution, I'm just giving you the advice that you might have to just be ready to overcome that initial question. Well, then why is the BOT hiring or firing, or you know, retaining that authority? And you could say that's how we decided to do it. It's our local government. We want oversight over who is in this important position, and then we've given supervision authority to the town administrator. You know, if you have a problem with that, pound sand.
But then it's okay for the town administrator to come to the board of trustees, say, you know, this person I don't feel is, or it's not doing the job properly or whatever, and you know, recommend us to look into it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely.
In other words, don't put all that burden on the administrator's shoulders.
Well, something
Yeah.
was have to come to you guys.
Right, if
Maybe
something's
there's
happening, yeah.
Something, you know, bad or
Yeah, as the town clerk administrator position, the way that it's been rewritten is going to be incredibly important, and coordinating with the BOT for concerning all staff.
All staff,
Excuse me.
well, guys, what do you think? We leave it the way it is? Hired by the BOT then?
Well, we're waiting with that.
Chuck?
I can see both ways.
Yeah.
With, if you're gonna put, this would be just Chuck's opinion, if you're putting everything underneath the town clerk, it could be written such that the town clerk has the authority to hire and fire, but with the, for lack of a better word, blessing of the board of trustees. You know, we only meet once a month, except for special meetings, and all other meetings have to be announced and all that other stuff. So if there was a situation that had to be taken care of right then and there, she could legally fire that person. Like he was getting ready to beat a citizen to a pulp or something like that, or had already started beating on him. She would might have to have the authority to fire him, so you're done, out of here. Like this, she could tell him to leave the building maybe, and hopefully that he would comply, But then you'd have to have a special meeting with the board of trustees to present the evidence and have the board of trustees fire. I'm just,
Worst case scenario.
worst case scenarios, you know?
Well, we can fire without cause, correct, in the state of Colorado? Clay,
That's correct. That's how I suggest you deal with employees. Never, there's really rarely a reason to do a for cause removal. That's where you get into officer stuff too. Removal of an officer is much different than firing of an employee. You could also give supervision. You can also give the town clerk administrator authority to suspend a staff member subject to an appeal to the BOT or something like that. I mean, you can do it however you want.
well, truth is, I think if you're re-examining job descriptions, we're eventually gonna be re-examining how we do business, aren't we? And I think that's gonna have to happen when we get through some of these phases here, and we're gonna have to address it.
But in the light of the fact that we need to get this in and out,
Right.
Clay says it's legal that we have right now, I would say go with it. Only other change.
Art, an opinion?
So you're not requiring them to have a CDL?
Correct. That was,
How do you get away with that?
They don't drive.
So they can't drive the trucks or nothing?
They can drive the little truck, but the ones that require CDL, no.
It's just one vehicle right now.
I was thinking about a snowplow truck or something like that. You can't drive it.
The past two people in that position haven't drove for snow
Okay, that's
plowing
fine.
as
Yeah,
CDL.
I just want to know for your information.
No. I think it's an extra cost to the town to have them get the CDL if they don't already have it. And then is it utilized?
I'm just wondering why you even have that knowledge as Colorado CDL, what?
Because he's supervising people with the CDL.
Just have an extra set of eyes for Neil, because Neil's gonna be the one making sure the CDL stuff's in files.
Just like if you're a program manager on a project that has a bunch of engineers underneath there, you don't have to have an engineering degree.
But you gotta have a CDL to drive a truck.
Well, I mean, to drive a truck, but
You gotta have one.
he doesn't drive
There's
it.
no way around it.
Right.
But they're not driving it.
Yeah,
They
that's fine.
haven't.
Randy?
Well, I can see both sides. Having the, town clerk be in charge. I'm concerned about the hiring and firing, basically. I think the way we've got it now, or the way we've been talking about it is fine, but who's gonna do the hiring and firing? We really need to nail that down, because I don't want somebody to come back later and say, well, now I interpret it this way, and well, just like what Clay was saying. I'm gonna have to go with what the rest of the board basically approves.
Well, we're leaving it with the Board of Trustees at this point, yeah. And this was not an original duty of you when you were hired in the first place, right?
Are you keeping track of that big steep climb of all the stuff that you've got punched on you since you've been hired?
So Clay, if we leave it the way it is, the hiring is done by the Board of Trustees. You made a good point about, we could add the power of suspension of an employee. Maybe we talk about that some other time.
That would be in errands.
Yeah, it would be an errand job. So for the time being, we're not making this an officer. I think we agreed on that.
Right.
So what, it's an employee job description. It's a consensus of the board good enough, and then we hand it out for publication. Is that how we proceed? legally?
Sure, you can do verbal resolution and task staff with putting and or amending the, wherever staff believes it's best to go, whether that's in the employment handbook or if there's a separate, job description manual or whatever. But you can do it by verbal resolution and vote to pass the documents in front of you. The document would need to have been published, and you need to make sure that your motion includes some language that says, we're moving to pass this
Say that again, please.
we're moving to pass this job description with the included amendments, and then direct staff to include that job description in the employee manual and or the hiring manual, et cetera, wherever it makes the most sense.
You said that that would be under a resolution?
Right. Well, I mean, even just by default, if you guys make a decision, a motion, and then give direction, it's considered a verbal resolution.
Well, maybe for clarity, we should just accept a resolution from the board to affect what Clay just said, unless there's other discussion. Is there other discussion? Well, the illustrious chair then.
Well, I'm sorry. So the resolution would then go into effect when, Clay?
Well, it would be immediate. This is a special meeting, I believe. You guys have properly noticed it. You guys are making a decision as a board. It would be take immediate effect.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the suggested job description with the suggested changes and edits. And go forward with the hiring process.
A second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a resolution proposed in a second. Any further comments from the board? Anybody else from the staff? All right, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Great. And then Aaron, I just make sure in the minutes that you include the a list of the amendments that were contemplated and referred to in the motion.
I've got them numbered here and all that.
Okay.
Perfect.
Unless there's any other pertinent business, I think we're done for today.
I have a question.
Of course.
Now, I got in trouble when I was part of Dark Skies, responding to some of the stuff that's been put out in various publications. Does the town have any official way to not contradict or correct things that have been said, like in the Tribune about the board?
A good question.
I mean, it just riles my butt, some of the stuff that he said.
Yeah.
And when I said he, the editor of the Tribune.
Well,
And gentlemen, I would just caution, that is not technically an agenda item for today. If you wanted to go back and add it, you could. I mean, we could talk about proper response to public media and newspaper. We can talk about the possibility of, slander, lawsuits, etc. But I would probably want to put that on as an agenda item and possibly in an executive session for under legal advice, just because you're getting into some legal strategy and possible action that probably shouldn't be discussed in a public forum.
Okay, I rescind my question.
okay. All right, I guess we have to have a motion to, I haven't done this before, to adjourn, yeah?
I move that we adjourn.
Second? All right, Art.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks, Clay.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Clay.
guys. You bet.